Welcome. So let's dive into a really fascinating puzzle. Artificial intelligence is a global technology, right? It doesn't care about borders, but the rules that govern it, they're totally local. And that's creating this incredibly complex, fragmented landscape for, well, pretty much everyone.
Now, this explainer is based on Chapter 6 of a 10-chapter course on AI ethics, business, and society by Virtualization Options LLC. We're going to focus only on the info in this chapter to really unpack how the world is scrambling to write the rulebook for AI, even while the technology itself just keeps racing ahead.
And this really is the core issue, isn't it? How can any of us, businesses, governments, regular people, navigate a world where one single technology is being governed by this patchwork quilt of different and sometimes totally conflicting rules? It's a massive challenge, and the stakes are incredibly high. Okay, let's get right into it by looking at the three major players on the world stage and their completely different strategies for handling AI. We're talking about the European Union, the United States, and China. And as you'll see, they each have a very, very different playbook.
So first up, the European Union. They've rolled out this really groundbreaking AI Act. And what's so interesting is its risk-based approach. So instead of some one-size-fits-all rule, they sort AI into 4 tiers of danger. It goes all the way from things that are just outright banned, like government social scoring, down to stuff that's considered minimal risk.
And let's be clear, the EU is not just making friendly suggestions here. For those high-risk systems, we're talking about AI used in things like hiring or in critical infrastructure, the requirements are super strict and legally binding. The bar for companies is set incredibly high. They have to prove their systems are safe, transparent, and have real human oversight before they can even be used. This is huge because it forces companies to build ethics in from day one. And if you're wondering if they're serious, just look at the penalties. We're talking up to 35 million euros, or, and this is the real kicker, 7% of a company's global annual turnover. That kind of number effectively sets a new global standard because any big international company that wants to do business in Europe has to follow these rules.
Okay, so the EU has this very strong, comprehensive game plan. How does that compare to the other big players? Well, it's a completely different story. The US has taken a much more decentralized, sector-by-sector approach. There's no single big AI law. The focus is more on innovation, with voluntary guidelines to help steer companies. And then you have China, which is another thing entirely. Their regulation is all about state control and social stability, making sure AI is aligned with national priorities. It's a real clash of philosophies. So you've got these 3 giants all pulling in different directions, and that brings up the really big question. Can the world actually work together on this stuff? I mean, is global harmony even possible, or are we just heading for complete regulatory chaos?
You know, despite all those divisions, there are groups trying to build bridges. Take UNESCO's recommendation on AI ethics. It sets a really high bar. It frames AI ethics not just as a way to stop bad things from happening, but as a tool to actively do good in the world. It's a pretty inspiring vision for what this technology could be. And it's not just UNESCO. There's a whole ecosystem of organizations working on this. You've got the OECD, which creates the policy frameworks, kind of like the how-to guides for governments. GPAI brings experts together to work on big research projects. And then you have groups like ISO, which are developing the nitty-gritty technical standards that turn these big ideas into actual rules for engineers. But let's be realistic here. The path to global cooperation has some major roadblocks. For starters, you have intense geopolitical competition, especially between the US and China. You've got fundamental disagreements on core values like privacy and free speech. And on top of it all, this is a fierce economic race to see who will lead the AI-powered future. So all of this brings us right back to the core conflict that's going to define the next decade: a single, borderless technology governed by a totally fractured map of local rules. For any global company, or honestly for any of us who use the internet, figuring all this out is going to be incredibly complicated.
And what this all comes down to is that the choices being made right now by nations, by companies, by all of us are going to determine the future of a technology that is set to completely reshape our world. There isn't just one path forward. There are many, and the direction we pick is going to matter a lot. So I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. As we build this future, are we going to find a way to create a global system based on shared principles and human rights? Or are we going to watch the world split into competing tech blocks, separated by a kind of digital iron curtain? The rulebook is still being written, and the final draft? Well, that's far from certain.